Hi, I'd like to take a few minutes to explain to you one of the unique parameters that we utilize in Z-Health Performance to, first of all, get people out of pain, but also help athletes optimize their performance. What we're going to talk about is something called sensory integration and also sensory mismatch. The concept here is that there are three primary governing systems in our body with regards to the nervous system. We have the visual system, we have the vestibular system, which is your inner ear or onboard balance system, and then we have your movement system. And all of these guys live at different parts in different areas of the brain, but most of all, they integrate, and they have to basically share information. Now, the way that this works is very intriguing, and what I'm going to do is put a little diagram up here and take you through an example of something that you might see or might have experienced personally. So the three systems that I talked about, I'm going to put just like this. We have the visual system, we have the vestibular system, and remember that is your balance or inner ear system, and then we have what's called the proprioceptive system. And I'm going to put movement underneath that, because really that's what these three guys do. You have vision, vestibular, proprioception, and as I said, these systems working together help you move through the world safely. You can see that all of these guys interact as well, right? Just in the drawing. Now, let me show you what oftentimes occurs in people unbeknownst to them. What we're going to envision is that we have a child's born, growing up normally, going to school, etc. And hopefully you're familiar with eye measures, meaning you go to your eye doctor very often, you'll hear, hey, you have great vision, you have 20/20 vision. So most people consider 20/20 vision to be excellent vision, or at least normal vision for your age. Other measures, let's say we're gonna now say that a right eye, this is the right eye here, is 20/20, but let's say the left eye isn't working as well. That might wind up with a rating of 20/80. So that means that this left eye is quite a bit more blurry. I have less acuity at certain distances. But what's interesting about this particular setup is, like I said, let's say we've got a child that's 8, 9, 10 years old going through school. Because they already have a really good right eye, it's highly unlikely that they notice that there's any deficit in their vision. With that in mind, let me explain some stuff that might occur. If we have one really good eye, in one eye, in some cases, what could happen is this eye that's a little blurry, the brain can begin to shut that image off. That is something called suppression. And so, in essence, what will happen is that in certain situations, this child's brain will basically just discard that image, because each eye takes in an image. We tell people they're kind of like the lens of a camera, each one. This one's nice and clear, and this one over here has Vaseline or something on the lens. So your brain's job is to take both those images and merge them into one. You create this nice, clean, crisp, three-dimensional image by that integration. But what happens if this one gets dumped? Now all of a sudden you've got a child that's going through life thinking that they're using both eyes all the time, but they're not. And in fact, this particular individual may begin to do something like this. If I'm looking directly at the camera, if this eye isn't working very well and my right eye becomes very, very dominant, because I trust it to give me information about the environment, I may begin to do this, which means that my dominant eye is turning toward the midline. This is something we see very commonly. Now, if I spend most of my waking adult existence this way, eventually that's going to manifest in different postural distortions, maybe curvatures and rotations in my spine, different tensions in my muscles, etc. The reason that I'm showing you this is a basic example of a sensory mismatch, where the eyes aren't telling the brain the same thing, and a result of that is that we get a movement problem. We wind up with a low-grade movement disorder that may eventually manifest in pain, some kind of performance decrement. So we tell people that if you're going to be a great movement coach or you're going to be a great athlete, either one, your job is to first of all analyze and assess all three systems separately, and then you have to figure out, are they integrating well? If they're not integrating well, that has to be remedied through specific drills and skill building exercises. So as I said, this is an example, a very basic example of sensory mismatch. So to illustrate the point a little bit more, what we're going to do is we're going to intentionally create a sensory mismatch in somebody just so you can get an idea of what this looks like. So I'm going to have Shannon come out, and we're going to utilize these goggles. Now, what these goggles do is they actually do exactly this. They create a mismatch between his eyes and his inner ear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Shannon face the camera. All right. Now, what I want you guys to look at is just his head position, shoulder position, etc. And now I'm going to have him put these guys on. And I'm going to have him face the camera. Now, what you probably see right away is that his head turned to the left, his body turned to the left, and he feels as if he's facing you. Now, the issue with this is being created artificially because of a prism within the goggles. But do you think that might impact on his movement? Of course it would. If I had him take a walk, normally go ahead and try and walk to the camera. And don't hurt it. Stop. Good. And come back. And walk back toward me. Back to where you were. Now, go ahead and face up. Now, we always like to use these in our courses just because they're very demonstrative. Now, the issue that you're seeing is, as I said, because he's now getting a huge mismatch between what his eyes are telling him, what his inner ear is telling him, his movement system, right, number 3 here, is paying the price. So you see he's unsteady, he's unsure, and this is how a lot of people go through their life, although it's on a milder scale because of ongoing sensory mismatch. As you can imagine, if someone moved like that all day, every day, there's a high likelihood that they would hate moving, they'd be fatigued all the time, they'd be in pain. And so in the Z Health Performance System, like I said, we start with this as a basic concept, and then we begin to expand it because a great athlete, go ahead and take those off. Ultimately, a great athlete is the complete inverse of this. There's not only no mismatch, there's actually fantastic integration. And so our goal in everything that we do is to take people from this mismatch perspective into full and complete integration.